Hello and welcome to the first ever From the Ashes wrestling podcast. I'm going to be your host on this experience. My name is Paul Ashe. I've been a professional wrestler and a wrestling trainer for the past 24 years. And even more importantly, I've been a wrestling fan for the past 30. I've literally been a fan of wrestling since I was first an adult. Some people would say I'm still working towards that goal, but you get the point. I've had a wonderful career. I've experienced and achieved a tremendous amount. But when I first started out, it was a very different world. I started out in 1996 and Google wasn't even a company, let alone some kind of creepy Skynet AI trying to take over the world. And wrestling's changed a lot over those 30 years. In the 4 different decades that I've worked in, I've been very, very lucky. I've achieved a tremendous amount. I was one half of the first nationally recognized tag team champions at 23 years old. I've been British champion 6 times. I've trained in America. I've trained with WWE World Champions. I've done a lot. And now, as I'm 43 years old, I've transitioned a little bit and I'm no longer in front of the curtain as much. I'm now behind the curtain more as the head booker, chief creative for Ultimate British Wrestling, company unbelievably close to me that I devote my entire time to, mostly for helping train up and develop the next generation of wrestling stars for the UK who are going to go on and hopefully follow in the same footsteps as me, experience the same things as I have, and get to live their dream and enjoy this as much as I have. Now, I started this podcast out to speak to the people who have laid the foundations for our business today, but also to speak to the people who are paving the way for the future ahead. I want to get to know them, know their stories, know their journeys and how they started in wrestling and how it's gone so far, what they're going to be doing next. And quite, I think most importantly, how they get to be sharing a podcast with a man who once urinated next to Triple H while his friend was in the stall narrating his bowel movements. It's a legitimate story. I'll share it another time. Today, I'm going to be speaking to one of the brightest stars in the wrestling universe right now. Someone who has become an international star. She's broken into Japan on a regular basis for Stardom Wrestling. She has stood atop divisions across multiple promotions in the UK. And more importantly, she's someone I'm very, very proud to call my friend. Today, I'll be talking to Bobbi Tyler. First off, I'm going to have a little bit of commentary myself, a few views and stuff of wrestling at the moment, things that have been going on. So if you do want to get past my rounding and go straight to the interview with Bobbi, that's not a problem. I'll put the notes in the podcast notes of the timestamps. I won't hold it against you. I might. But I wanted to talk about last weekend's Royal Rumble. Now, I haven't watched a wrestling pay-per-view, supercard, whatever you want to call them now, for quite a long while. I really kind of fell out of love with the product a lot last year. And I found it very difficult to watch. But I watched the Rumble because, well, it's the Rumble. It's the biggest card of the year. It's even bigger than WrestleMania, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people's. It's the most exciting. It's the one with the big surprises. And it's the most enjoyable to watch live. Now, I thought the Women's Rumble was very, very good, really enjoyable. I'm really glad they put Bianca Belair over. She's someone that I've been shouting about for a very long while, even when she first came into, I think it was the Mae Young tournament a year or two ago. And she was billed by some people as a one-trick pony because of the hair whip thing. But early on, you could just see that she was a star. She had something different. She had some presence and some personality. And I thought right from the word go, if they just give her a chance, she could be a big star. And I think going with her and hopefully keeping the pressure on and actually giving her a run is definitely a good thing. I think she's a tremendous talent in the making. She's young. She's an athlete like no other. I think she'll be a really, really good one to go with. It was really good seeing Victoria back in the ring. Didn't think we'd ever see her back there, but seeing her back in there and doing her thing, it was a nice nostalgia pop, and it was good to see her interacting with the new, younger girls, being someone that really kind of paved the way for them. That was really good. The match itself, I thought overall flowed very well. It was very fun, and it was thoroughly enjoyable. The Men's Rumble, I would honestly say it was one of the best ones I've seen in a very, very, very long time. Of course, there's the big feel-good moment, which we'll get to, but it had a lot of star power, which in a lot of the years past it hasn't had, but it's had quite a bit of star power in it. The return of Carlito was good to see, especially as he had a nice little run in there, bit of dominance. There were some good spots in there. There was lots of good continuation of feuds and rivalries that are going on. What they were doing with AJ and his bodyguard was enjoyable. And overall, it was very well paced. It was very well structured. I can't believe they missed Edge's spear again, but that's another thing. But the whole thing with Edge was fantastic. It was a real good feel-good moment. And Edge is one of those guys that everyone loves Edge because he's a real kind of person. And that kind of bleeds over into his character. Even when he's a heel, it bleeds over into that as well because you can see he's so passionate about what he does. And he's just so enjoyable to watch. He's so good at his craft. To think that he's 47 years old, hasn't worked in a year, practically, and he goes in there for an hour as number one and last through was incredible. It was a big, big thing to put on his shoulders. And let's be honest, by the end of it, he looked like he was done, but he did incredible with it. And I think it really, really peaked when they did the story full circle and Christian came out. We haven't seen Christian wrestle. I don't even know how many years it is now. Such a long while. As far as we understood, he was done for good. To see him not only be there, but to get involved with a younger talent, and then the reunition. It's not even a word. But to see him get in there and get involved with the younger talent, and of course the eventual reuniting with Edge, it was a tremendously feel-good moment. And it was almost like fandom, you know? It was like a kind of fandom moment of pleasing the fandom and giving them that. I thought it was fantastic. It was almost predictable how the ending was going to go. But as I said to somebody as I was watching it, sometimes it's good to get what you predict. It's like Christmas. It's fun and nice to have the surprises, but if you know that you're getting a certain thing for Christmas and you unwrap it, you're not disappointed that it's something that you knew you were getting. You're happy that you wanted it and you got it in the end. And I think that's how the Rumble played out. It was very enjoyable. It was a very well structured Rumble, and it made me very interested to see what comes next. I want to see what they do with Edge. I want to see what they do with Christian. You could see during a match that Edge and Christian were both trying very hard to make sure they were working with the new guys, working with Ricochet, working with AJ, working with some of the younger talents, because they've clearly gone, I want to work with this new generation. And it'll be really interesting to see if they can do it. So it gives me a little bit of hope for the future. And it gives me hope with what they're doing with Bianca Belair as well. Let's hope that 2021 picks up a bit more than 2020 and it really pumps some new life into the product. I'm excited to see where it goes next. So anyway, my rambling aside, that's my summation of wrestling at the moment. Now we're going to get on to our main interview with Bobbi Tyler. We have a very nice, I think, honestly, the most sensible conversation me and her have ever had. I've known Bobbi now, it must be a good 7 years or so. No, since she was a baby, she was a teenager. And I've seen her grow up into a young woman and seen her mature tremendously. And I've seen her grow as a person as well as a wrestler and become an unbelievable talent. I hope the future for her is even brighter than I know it can be. She has all the talent, all the drive, all the determination in the world. All she needs is an opportunity, and she would be a fantastic attribute for any major company out there. I'm personally unbelievably proud of her, and I'm really excited to see what she does next. So this is our conversation. We go through a lot of things. We go through how she first started out, her journey in wrestling, some very personal discussion about a friend of hers, and it's just two very good friends chatting about the wrestling business. So I hope you enjoy it. I think as a podcaster, and I call myself a podcaster, this is the first time I've been doing it, I've got a lot of work to do. I think I need to work on my presentation a bit. It was very kind of, I had it scripted out what I wanted to ask, and it seemed like I was working from a script, but it's going to come in time. I'll get more comfortable with doing this, and hopefully over a few more episodes, and I've had a few more people on and some more relaxation kicks in, it'll be even better. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's not too amateur for you, and I hope you'll follow me in the future. Let's get on to Bobbi. Well, here we go. It's the first ever from the Ashes podcast. And we're starting it strong. We're starting it with someone who I've known a very long while, someone who's a very, very close friend to me, and someone who I can honestly say is incredibly unique. Welcome to the podcast, Bobbi Tyler, a.k.a. Lucy.
Hello, Paul. It's a bit strong saying that you're a good friend of mine, but I'll let you think that.
No, that's absolutely fair. You know, I'm just trying to ride on your coattails, so as long as you're okay with that.
No, totally fine. Totally fine.
Good. So, I mean, originally I planned to start this podcast about a year ago, and I was going to theme it around UBW and the characters and the storylines. But obviously a lot went on last year, and it didn't seem like the right time to do it. And I thought there was far more important things going on in the world and in wrestling. So I thought I'll put it on ice for a while. But talking to people recently made me realize I really want to try and get this going. And I wanted to broaden the scope, speak to more people, speak about bigger things. And I wanted to kick it off in a special, personal way. And I thought there's nobody more special, and definitely no more personal and special than my surrogate daughter herself, Bob Tyler.
Oh, of course.
You know. I say surrogate because there's no way I'd actually take real ownership of you. So, you know.
You wouldn't want that. But
No.
I am flattered. Not flattened, flattered.
Flattered and flattered.
Yeah. I'm flattened, yeah.
So let's start right from the beginning, okay? Not when the earth cooled and the dinosaurs came, but let's start at the beginning of your journey.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of genesis of Bobbi Tyler. So when I first met you, UBW had first started at the time. You were just a teenage girl, very young. You were quiet, timid, soft-spoken.
Mm-hmm.
What on earth happened to that? Was it just years of trauma?
Well, it was funny because I can still remember my first day of training, and my mum and dad took me and walked me in, and it was just like just all these guys. And bear in mind, I'd never even, most I did was netball, do you know what I mean? So it was a really weird environment, and I said to them going in, I said, you can go when we get in, it's fine. And then when I seen it, I was a little bit intimidated. So I kind of said to my mum, I was like, I mean, you can stay if you like. And she went, no, it's fine. And I was like, no, honestly, you can stay. And she's like, no, it's okay. So I was like, all right, then bye. So like I was like a child on the first day of school, but
She totally sold you out then.
Yeah, definitely. She loved it. I think, yeah. So but as soon as I was in, it was great. Do you know what I mean? Like within 5 minutes, I was so comfortable and happy, and I was loving it, loving it.
So being the only girl in that class full of boys, which you were for quite a while, did you feel any extra pressure to deliver and any kind of more pressure to prove yourself, being the only female amongst all these young lads? Did you feel like you had to go the extra mile just to get one accepted and two seen?
I think I was quite lucky with you because you were very adamant on the idea that you wanted to make sure I was treated the same way, because I think it works both ways, where obviously I want to put as much work in as everyone else, but I want to be treated like everyone else there in return. So I think it works both ways, and obviously that's something you taught from very early on. So I've always had that attitude, and I'm lucky enough to never have had an issue with that, or never felt, especially in that training environment, I never felt like I always felt like one of the guys.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
No, I do. And I said to everyone very early on that they need to treat you same as anybody else in the school, no matter what your gender is, because to do anything less is disrespectful to you, because you shouldn't get treated differently purely because of your gender. And if they take it easy on you, it's disrespectful, and they're just going to get hit back harder for it. So totally. I've always kept that as a very important thing. And it's good to know that you always felt that in your training. That's important.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been under the mindset of, if someone says to me, I'm gonna go easy on you. I just feel like, well, good, then this will be easy for me. I'm just
You're
gonna
lost.
yeah, you're lost, right? But yeah, I think that was a perfect training environment for me. And a big part of it made me, I needed that in my life. As an older teenager, I was very underconfident, and I never had anything to give me that confidence. Like, I wasn't outgoing at school. I never really had big friendship groups. I never joined in activities and stuff and had hobbies. So I was very, like, hadn't had that time to branch out. So that for me was huge and really started something in my life.
And that's just good to hear, because I know that happens with a lot of people, and I was the same myself. It's interesting because it's a kind of a camaraderie and a brothership, sistership that gives you a lot of acceptance that you wouldn't necessarily have, or a lot of kind of outreach you wouldn't necessarily have. And I think it's very healthy for that in a lot of ways for people. It's good that it gave you that as well. And I think it's important at an early age, if it can help shape you in a positive way, it is very important to get that out of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So before training itself, how old were you when you first kind of discovered wrestling? What drew you into it, and what kind of stuff kind of really grabbed you, and who were your favorites growing up?
So it's funny because I can't actually remember the age I was when I started watching wrestling. It's all kind of a blur. Anything past yesterday, I can't really remember.
I feel that.
Yeah, so I was quite young, and it was me and my sister. It was on Sky Sports at the time. We didn't actually have Sky Sports, but we had it every so often. They'd give it like a month for free for certain subscribers, to trial it out. And whenever we had that, we'd watch it all the time, like all the time. And it's quite funny because everyone talks about their older brother getting them into it, but for me it was my youngest sister. Like, we used to watch it all the time and play it out on the trampoline, and we would get the pillows and everything. It was, and we watched it for so long, whenever we could, and then every so often, like, my grandma would give us pocket money, and me and my sister would put together and say, hey, mum and dad, can we get Sky Sports for a month? Can we just, just so we can watch it? No. And then eventually we could go on like www.com and keep up to date with stuff. And then every so often we could get Sky Sports and watch it. But yeah, and then when I was a teenager, my mum took me to see Monday Night Raw for the first time, and it was the best thing in the world. My favorite was a diva called Eve Torres, and I adored her. I loved her so much, and I'd get WWE magazines and cut out pages of her. Anything she was on, I'd put it on my wall. I was obsessed. And my mum took me to Monday Night Raw, and I watched her win the Divas title, and I was just in a stand full of men, and I was just a little girl. I was like crying. I was like, this is the best thing ever.
Perfect
and I was
timing.
Like, this is going to be me. I love this. This is special.
So did you see her and kind of look at her and think, like, that's what I want to be? That's a woman in a man's world who's exceeding and being a champion. Did you kind of look at her and have a bit of hero worship in that sense and go, yeah, that's what I want to do?
Yeah, 100%. I loved her as a performer, and I loved her as a person from reading about her in like WWE magazine and all the little things I had when I was younger. The way she even just came across, I just thought, I just want to be this woman. Like, to me, she is what I envision myself as being. So she really was like, not just I wasn't just a wrestling fan for her. She was like a role model to me. And that was the first time I had something like that in my life.
That's important to have.
100%. And even to this day, like, she's such a big inspiration still. I'll still put on her matches if I want to get hyped. I'll still like, she teaches a lot of like women empowerment, self-defense, and I think like that is just incredible that she shares these things online daily. for women to see.
Very strong.
And I just think she's the perfect role model to this day. Do you know what I mean? So her and Kofi Kingston were my favourites back in the day, and they still are. So
that's fair. I think everyone loves Kofi, one reason or another, and one level or another. Everyone loves Kofi. There's nothing about him to unlike or dislike.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, they were my favourites. So
it's a big step to go from watching it as a fan and being a fan of watching it as a consumer to actually giving it a go and getting up and trying it out itself. I mean, I've seen a lot of people over the years that have started that journey. They haven't seen it through when they realize how hard it is. What kind of convinced you, and especially taking into account when you're saying that you weren't a sporty person when you were younger, what convinced you to both have a go at it in the first place and also stick at it once you realize this actually hurts a bit? How did that work out?
So I've always loved the performance side of things. I used to do little school musicals and stuff, and I'd always love it. I'd live and breathe it when it happened. Obviously that stopped as I got older. I started losing a bit more confidence, but there's always been that part of me that wanted to do that. In regards to the sport aspect of it, I wasn't someone that hated like PE. That was always my favorite thing. I always loved that. I just hadn't found anything I enjoyed doing yet. And I think when I found wrestling, I just thought, well, I haven't found anything yet that I like. And there's no jobs stand out to me. Like, I don't want to be this. I don't want to be that. I just thought, this is what I want to do. Like, I personally love it so much. Why not? If I love something so much and I feel passionate about it, that's what they say is the perfect job. So why can't I put that into my situation? If I love something so much, why can't I work in that environment? So I just thought, well, why not? It's better than, even if it doesn't work out, at least I tried. And if it does work out, surely I'll be so happy. So that's my mindset.
That's a really important thing, actually, you said there. And I've said this to a lot of people before, a lot of trainees, and I probably even said it to yourself at one point, that I think with something like wrestling, especially if it's something that you love so much, at least try it. And if you try it, and it doesn't work out, or you do it for a short time, you can at least say you've tried it. There's so many people out there that have an interest in something that never have either the opportunity or maybe the courage to try it at least. And it's a big step to do, and especially when you're stepping into an unknown. But to do it and to succeed at it as well, obviously it's the golden standard. But it's good to know that when you got into it, you found your creative side. You found the part of you that's clearly more interested in being a creator and being an entertainer, and you found an ability to do it. It's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think if you have that opportunity to do something that makes you happy, at least try and do it. And then you're laughing. So
totally agree.
Yeah.
So when you started out with UBW, you started out originally as a valet. It's quite a common path because you get to have experience of being out there and being at ringside. I try and avoid sticking female trainees into the valet role because it's just, you can learn at ringside. There's no doubt about that at all. But I'd be very careful. I don't like easily going that route. But did you find doing that was beneficial to you? Did you find that you learned things while being at ringside and that close to the action and learning from the people you were working with?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I had zero experience before. The thought of just going out and wrestling a match is so daunting. So having that pressure lifted and just being able to go out, still perform, but without the added pressure of wrestling a match was a great opportunity. Personally, that's how I knew it was something I wanted to do, was wrestling, was because I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't my favorite thing to do. It didn't feel right for me. So I am not ungrateful for that. I am totally grateful. And if I could do it again, I would. But it wasn't for me. I couldn't have done it every week.
Yeah, like I say, I think it's helpful in a way of getting you into it and getting you started. But when you're doing it, whether same as when you first get in the ring, whether that's for you or not. Alex is a great example. Alex, our referee, he tried training. The physicality wasn't for him. Staying as a referee. Same
and
thing.
He's a
with
great
Alex,
referee.
and he is absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think it's the same way the other way as well. You did the valet side. You got a taste of it, and I remember that first show and seeing you, and the kind of fear in your eyes before you went out. I thought, oh. I feel so sorry for her because, she's going to get starstruck. Because we had a good packed, 400-person house.
Yeah.
As soon as you got out there, you were in your element, you were being a character, and you could just tell as soon as you got back, you could see the hunger in your eyes. And I remember talking to Rich at the time and saying, yeah, she'll stick at it. She'll stick at it. She's got it now.
Yeah, so, it's interesting because in my head, I have this drive to do things and I have a goal. And I know in my head that I won't stop until I reach that goal. But you hear so many people say it and then, something happens or it doesn't quite work out. And you're just thinking, is that me? Am I just convincing myself that I'm dismotivated or this is going to happen when it's not? But I can't show other people how driven I am without just doing it. So from that point in my head, I'm like, well, this isn't where I'm going to be. So I'll just do the job I need to do, but I'm going to keep working and get where I want to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And you did. You put the work in and you put the effort in and it paid off when, and this is, I think it's still the pinnacle of your career so far. You had your debut match against, the entry point for most people into UBW and an entry point for a lot of people into wrestling against me as the indomitable, the terrifying, the deadly Major Lee Rotten.
Oh, and he was rotten.
Oh, boy, he was.
Oh, God.
But thinking back, we advertised that match with the local newspapers by doing a photo shoot of you stamping on a masked man in a public field outside of your house on a weekday afternoon in spandex, with people walking their dogs, looking and going, what is going on over there?
What was going through my head when I agreed to that?
I know, but the best thing was it was my birthday that day, and what more birthday present can you get than somebody jumping on you in a field and stamping on you while a photographer's going, yeah, one more, please. But it worked, and it got you in the national papers, and it got a lot of press. It was very good. Aside from me, obviously putting you over strong and basically being responsible for all of your success from here,
of course.
How was that match for you in terms of like excitement and nerves and the feeling afterwards? I remember how it was from my perspective seeing you afterwards, but take us through what that was like for you in terms of the emotions and the feelings and everything.
Well, to me, that was WrestleMania. Like, that was the biggest, that was it, like something I dreamed of. Well, you look back and you're like, well, that was it. But at the time, it was the biggest thing in the world. My parents were there watching me. I thought they must be so proud of me right now. Look what I've done. Do you know what I mean? Like, to me, that was the biggest thing in the world. And it's funny, I can't remember a lot of it. Like I say, like, everything's a big blur, and it happens a lot of the time. When good things happen, I'm so in the moment, I just almost forget to remember. I don't know if that's a thing, but
no, it's the adrenaline. The adrenaline just kind of makes you go kind of almost emotionally blind because you just flooded with chemicals. I remember you being nervous, but just calming you down when you were in there and just relaxing you, and you did everything fine. You hit all your points fine. You put on a really good match. Everyone come out of it going, oh, you know what? Yeah, she did really well. And I remember you were ecstatic afterwards, and it was great because it meant a lot to me that one, it went well, and two, you felt happy afterwards, and three, that you had a chance to have a first match that showed off well, because a lot of us have absolute stinkers for our first matches. But yeah, I mean, did you feel afterwards that you were then set? Yes, this is definitely what I'm doing. This is just the first of many. I'm not even faltered for a second. I'm going to force it on as far as I can do.
Yeah, it's funny. I think to this day, I still have the same attitude after every match. For me, regardless of how it went, I'm already focused on my next move and already thinking, okay, this is for next time. Yeah, this has happened. Now I'm ready for next time. And I think since then, I'm still the same. I was the same then. I was just looking forward to the future.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome for me launching you and giving you your moment of your career. You're welcome. So just remember that when you're a multimillionaire.
Well, I remember the only thing I remember specifically from that match was I had you in an arm bar and you powered me up with one arm, and I thought, whoa, nice.
The funny part of that is, as I was doing it, what was going through my head was, oh God, am I going to be able to do this?
Yeah.
No, it went well. So obviously you went on from there and did more in UBW, moved on to the rest of the UK scene, got out there, got to a lot of places. So let's talk about the big point. Let's talk about Japan.
Okay.
I remember you talking to me when you were first approached by Stardom. And we had a conversation, and I remember telling you, absolutely take the opportunity if it's there. It's a chance to learn so much, to experience so much. What actually went through your mind when arguably the biggest premier women's wrestling company in the world approached you with something like that as an opportunity? What went through your mind? What were your thoughts going into it?
It's funny because it was so out of the blue and fairly early on into the first time they contacted me was very early on. I didn't have a lot of experience, and it almost didn't feel real that they were contacting me. It wasn't even 5 minutes for me to clock on, wait, this is real. It took me like a couple of days, like checking and messaging people and going, is this real? What?
Let's Google search this email address, see if it's real.
Yeah, where's this email coming from? Obviously it was real. But at the time they first contacted me, I did not feel ready to go to Japan. Personally and in the ring and out, basically. I just didn't feel like I matched the standards of the other women in Stardom. So the first time they actually reached out to me, I politely declined and said, I really appreciate that. Can you just give me a little bit longer? I promise I'll give you something worth your time, but this isn't it. And looking back, that was bold, because you should take every opportunity. People say that to you, but I don't regret it because it has come full circle, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it is, like you say, it is a very bold thing to do, but I can tell you from someone's experience as a promoter and as a booker and someone who's been in the business a while, for someone to have the maturity and the humility to say something like that makes me even more determined to get them on board when they're ready, because you know that person isn't a dreamer. You know that person is taking this seriously, and I would imagine they thought the exact same thing.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, obviously coming from yourself, but they obviously appreciated it, and they do have a high standard. They have some of the best wrestling in the world, not just women's wrestling. People like to separate the two, but they shouldn't, because this is one of the best products in the world. I was not one of the best products in the world, and I was nowhere near it. And I think they really appreciated that honesty, because they're a professional business and they understood me and respected it. I think they really respected what I said. So I'm so grateful for that, because obviously it could have come across like I was saying, no, wait for me. Like I deserve to be waited on, which obviously is not what I was going for. But yeah, they understood, and like we discussed, they came back to me in maybe 2 years' time later. And by that point I felt, okay, it's time.
So take me through like a normal kind of day-to-day when you're in Stardom, because you were out there for tours, you were out there for months on a time, weren't you? So yeah. What's the kind of day-to-day life like in Stardom in terms of the training and the matches and the actual environment? what was that like? And did you have any kind of struggles or difficulties with either communication or the language barrier or the culture?
Yeah, so obviously I've heard other girls' stories of their first experiences in Japan. Mine seemed to be different because from day one, I was paired up with Hana Kimura, who had the most amazing English. She was fluent in English and Japanese. So because we were working together, I had her to guide me through every step of the way.
Yeah.
She told me what was right, what was wrong, what was respectful, disrespectful, helped me with my matches, everything. So obviously my experience was very, very good. And I was very looked after. But regardless, I think from day one, Stardom really do look after you and make you feel at home. You're always guided through it all. The girls there are so respectful and lovely and look after you and make sure you're well informed. Even if there is a language barrier, you just know there's kindness there and everyone wants the best for each other. So in regards to that, it never crossed my mind as a problem at all. And people said that to me that I'd already been, but it scared me. But from day one, I was fine. As far as the day-to-day goes, we would train 2 to 3 times a week, and then we'd wrestle 3 to 4 times a week, usually. So it was quite busy, but we got our days off, and in our days off, we could do whatever we wanted. So travel around Tokyo, go and train some more. Yeah, whatever we wanted. It was the most amazing experience. It's a perfect mixture of just exploring and having a great time and doing what you want to do, which is wrestling, and world-class training. So
it sounds like perfect. It sounds like they have the right mix of treating it as both a job and as a pastime that is also a job. So it's not purely focused on business, but it's also not a bit of a chuckle. It sounds like they've got the right mixture of giving you enough freedom and giving you enough personal accountability, while at the same time expecting the kind of the dedication back from you, and kind of give and take from both sides.
Yeah, I think you've got to remember, if you travel to Japan with the mindset of this is a job, I'm here to work and I will work hard.
Yeah.
And then that respect will come back and you can take that how you will.
That's good. So if it's okay with you, let's talk a little bit about Hana Kimura.
I'd love to.
Okay. So you teamed with Hana Kimura in Stardom. You were the Tokyo Cyber Squad, correct?
Yes, we were. Yes,
about a year?
Yeah, before Tokyo Cyber Squad was Tokyo Cyber Squad, we teamed together as the Takugaseki Gun as just a tag team. And then it kind of evolved from there. I think it wasn't until I started in Stardom January 2019, and it wasn't until May that TCS was formed, April, May. Right. So yeah, we started as a tag team first, which was amazing because, like I say, she just helped me through everything, and I think my experience would have been different without her, and she made it amazing. So
it definitely sounds that way. Yeah, I mean, obviously last year, her death at the age of 23, it was hugely shocking, and it was heartbreaking to anybody in the industry and anyone even on the outside to hear something like that. And just an awful thing. But for myself, as someone who's suffered personal loss in myself in life, I try and be a believer in not mourning the loss of someone as much as celebrating their existence and what you did have with them. So, I mean, she was an amazing performer, incredible talent in the ring. I've watched her stuff with you. She was unbelievable. But from someone that was as close to her, tell me and the listeners, tell us something about Hana Kimura herself, the person as well as the worker. Tell us any kind of stories about her you want to share, any kind of funny or cool stories or memories, and kind of what she meant to you. This is a real platform for you to really talk about her.
I always say to people that Hana really made me who I am today. And I've always said that. because before I went to Japan, I was still in my shell a little bit. I still was really underconfident, especially in my work. And when I met her, she was just like me, but cooler. And she was what I wanted to be as a person. And she held my hand through, my experience in Japan. And I became out of it so much more confident and so much happier as a person. Working with her made me realize who I am and who I want to be. And to me, that is so, so important to everything I do today and for future, inside and outside of wrestling. So I can't express how much she means to me as a friend, but also just as a person. I can't tell someone who hasn't met her how incredible she was. I really can't. And I've tried putting it into words because people have asked me, like, what was she like? And you just can't put it into words how amazing someone is, especially someone that's had such an effect on your life personally.
Yeah.
So yes, it's difficult to talk about in regards because I just can't word it.
No, I can totally understand that when it's something like that and it's something you've connected with on an emotional level, you can't express that. Do you have any kind of either funny or impressive stories about anything that she did or anything that happened around her you want to share?
She was quite cheeky, so I don't really want to.
No, anything that could get you into trouble. That's fair enough.
My stories are a bit cheeky of her. I'll have to think of a few that would be appropriate to say, but she was the funniest person.
Yeah. It seems that she brought a lot of light and life into a locker room and obviously into your life. And I'm sure she would be incredibly happy and honored to know that the impact she had on you and helped make you the person you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. She was, whenever I think of her every day, and whenever I think of her, all I can hear is her voice saying, "Bobbi, you're so stupid." And she used to say that to me daily because I do something stupid. And that's what every day anything I do stupid, that's what I hear in my head. I'm like, oh, I know, I'm stupid.
It's important to have those good memories of people. So that's good. That's really nice.
Yeah, I hope going forward in the future, like, she's done so much for me, and I just want to make her proud and show her that I am doing everything she taught me as a person and carrying that through life, and that makes me happy knowing that I'm trying to do that. So
yeah, I mean, I think the fact that I've seen you grow from nothing to where you are now, and I can see the growth in you as a person as well as a performer. I think you're honoring her every single time you step in the ring now, because you can see it in what you do. You can see that influence and you can see those kind of life lessons. So I think, but from an outsider's perspective, you're honoring her every time you get in there. So
thank you.
Yeah, you're doing that. Don't you worry.
That means the world to me. I hope I can keep going forward, and I know that she's watching me, and I hope that she's either calling me stupid or she's proud of me, or both. Probably both.
She'll be doing that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, over the last 5 years or so, women's wrestling has exploded in both popularity and credibility worldwide, and it's been a long uphill battle for a long time. I personally think it's very, very important how women are booked, and that's why wherever absolutely possible, I don't use the term female wrestler.
Yeah.
For me, there's wrestlers. That's it. Some are male, some are female, some are strong, some are weak, some are big, some are small. We don't separate wrestlers based on their height or their age, so we shouldn't do the same for gender. And I think that they're barriers that they're being broken down, but we need to keep breaking them down, keep pushing it.
Absolutely.
Intergender wrestling in itself, it's still a work in progress for a lot of people. But you've been one of the premier talents in the UK to be leading the charge of breaking that down. So how do you approach a match with a male talent as opposed to a female? Do you take it any differently? Do you treat it any differently or not?
No, obviously it's really important to me, and different people approach it differently, and that's fine. That's so fine, as long as you approach it the way you want to do it. But for me, if I was going in to a match with a male talent, I would not change anything I do. I wrestled a dude maybe a year and a half ago, and at the start of the match he said, maybe it's a good idea to slap me, and I said, no, I don't really like slaps. And obviously sometimes people will associate that with a female, just like a slap, but to me it was really important that I stayed who I was, because that makes us equal. That doesn't make it an intergender match as such. And for me personally, that's what I love to do. I love to keep it the same. Some people don't. It's all about telling a story, and that is what the fans will connect with, regardless of how you do it. So that's how I approach it personally, but everyone's different, and I think it's all entertaining. So
yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I mean, your match you had, I think it was the year before last now, in UBW against Crowley.
Crowley.
Crowley. No, I worked very hard promoting that to try to never use the phrase female wrestler, never use the phrase intergender, and trying to put it out as a straight up match. And as it was, your match was one of the best main event matches that we've ever had. And it was a fantastic match in its own right. And at no point did it look like big man versus little woman. It was two very gifted athletes having a kick-ass main event that everybody bought into, everybody got involved in, and nobody at any point looks at it as female and male. And I remember watching that back afterwards, and I was saying to one of the other guys, like, this match is so good. It is a killer match. And not because it's, Lucy's doing so well against a bigger guy or doing so well for a female. No. It was great as a wrestling match. And I think that proved to a lot of people that there shouldn't be any defining line or dividing line between the two genders, because you absolutely owned that moment. It was, even with Crowley, as you know, Crowley being Crowley, you did really well.
Yeah, well, thank you. I loved that match so much, and maybe it was for that reason, because we both worked as if we were just two equal competitors, and you could really feel that actually wrestling in the match. You could feel that. There never felt like, it didn't even cross my mind it was an intergender match. Do you know what I mean? Because it just felt normal.
Yeah.
I loved it, and I think that's when it gets really good, when stuff like that happens. And I think I enjoyed it so much. He enjoyed it so much, and hopefully everyone else did.
Yeah, it did. We got a lot of good feedback from it, and like I say, in my opinion, it's one of the best main events and one of the best matches we've put on. It was killer.
Oh, thanks, man.
Just a shame that Crowley was in it, but there you go.
Yeah, well, you win some, you lose some.
Exactly. Yeah. Years ago, for anyone that was non-American to get anywhere near any of the major American companies was almost impossible. But nowadays, the rosters, they're stacked with multinational talent from UK, Australia, and throughout Europe. A lot of your colleagues and fellow wrestlers in the UK have been signed up to one of the big three. Opportunities bigger than ever. But at the same time, the level and quality of talent is probably better than ever. So with that in mind, who inspires you now as current former colleagues at 24 years old as you are now to push you harder and put the extra effort in and that drive to make it big?
As of late, Toni Storm has recently debuted in NXT in America. And to me, she is a perfect example of hard work and dedication and just being made for this. Yeah. Every time I see her, no matter how small or big the match is, she's 100%. She's always just giving it everything. And that is someone that wants to be at the top and really wants this. And to see that every time she goes out is really inspirational. And she's worked her way up from being an independent wrestler, moving country to do this, and working her way through NXT UK and winning the NXT UK championship. And she had a great reign in NXT UK as well as the champion. And then seeing her move on to doing great things in NXT, I think that's so inspirational. And I love watching her. So to me right now, it's got to be her.
Yeah, I think with Toni as well, you see when she comes out that she has a presence. And
yes,
it's not something you can teach. She has a presence about her. She has she just exudes superstar, and I think she's only just starting to prove that to the wider audience. She's only just beginning her journey, and I think over the next few years she'll be one of the biggest stars on the horizon, and it's going to be a joy to watch because she's a fantastic performer.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You've got that spot on. She is a superstar, and she's made for this. And to think it's only just started is mad. Like,
yeah.
So
what do you think lies ahead for Bobbi Tyler in 2021 and beyond? What's the next, the evolution of Bobbi Tyler? Obviously, you've come so far. What do you think is next on the horizon?
Well, if you watched You Are Cordially Invited, she's dead. So
of course, yeah. R.I.P.
So,
pieces.
Yeah, so unfortunately not. I hope that answers your question, but
it does.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully somebody will, pardon the pun, rise from the ashes, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, if you want to see more of her, rewatch the film.
Just fast forward all the bits for Crowley in it.
Yeah, you can get. Well, I mean, yeah.
Just like redacted.
Avoid. It's hard to avoid, but do your best.
Yeah. Right. Final questions.
Mm-hmm.
Answer these one by one. Favorite match you've ever watched?
I remember staying up late to watch an NXT takeover very early on in NXT, and it was Charlotte versus Natalya, and I can't remember too much of the match, but all I can remember is that I loved it. I loved it so much. I cried at the end of it, and it was like 4 a.m. Everyone's in bed, and I'm sat in the living room crying because I just thought I felt that. So for me, that's the most important thing a match can do for you.
Connect.
Yeah, regardless of what's in it. So from recent memory, that is one that always springs to mind because it made me quite emotional.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, because obviously we're only a couple of days after the Royal Rumble 2021, and the talking point from everyone, beyond all the matches, beyond all the spots, beyond everything that happened, the talking point from everyone is Edge and Christian hugging, because everyone felt that. They felt that on an emotional level, and if you can connect with people, that's more than everything. And you're looking at that match you mentioned, Charlotte and Natalya, two of the absolute best of this generation or any generation, and they went out there and they put on an absolutely great match that told story as well. And like you say, it connected. So I totally understand that. Yeah, that's a good choice.
Yeah, so like you say, to me, it's not what was in the match, it's how it made you feel. So that's my number one.
In terms of favourite match that you've been a part of?
It was Tokyo Cyber Squad versus Queen's Quest in Sapporo, in Japan. And it was the main event, and I had so much fun. I think it ended in a time limit draw, but it was the most fun I can remember having in a match. And yeah, that's my favourite, I think.
Okay, all right, awesome. That's good to have. Last question then. Years ago, there was a radio show called Desert Island Discs, and the entire idea was that if you were going to be stranded on a desert island, you could choose a handful of recordings and a personal item to be stranded with. So my version of that is you're stranded on a desert island. You get to take one album, one TV show, and one object with you. What do you choose?
Okay, it's going to be Gorillaz. Maybe Plastic Beach. I'm a huge Gorillaz fan.
Yes, you are.
So that is my number one. TV show, it's got to be the Mighty Boosh, because I can never not want to watch a Mighty Boosh episode. I think it's great. And what was the other one?
One object.
Probably my cat. Is my cat an object?
I'll let you have your cat, yeah. What's your cat called?
Yeah, Rocket.
Rocket, that's fair. So you take Rocket with you.
Yeah, he's well fluffy, so he's like multi-use. So you can use him as a pillow. You can play with him, although
Mop up spillages.
Yeah, he's he's a mop.
Repurpose. Yeah.
He does everything for you. Scratches you, bites you.
So there's constant entertainment at the very least.
Yeah, makes you
Good.
feel unwanted. And sometimes you need that. Yeah, keep life interesting.
Right. Okay, we're going to finish up there, Lucy. So one thing I'll say, and we'll close it up, is this year, 2021, God, I can't believe it's in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
This marks the 25th year since I first debuted. I'm that old.
Congrats.
In those 25 years, I've been fortunate enough to train a lot of people. I guess somewhere between 150 and 200 people across a dozen schools. Unbelievable amounts. There's a lot of them that I'm very, very proud of, that I've either trained directly or I've helped them develop, from Styx to Danny Birch in NXT to Sky to even to Crowley. I'm kind of proud of him.
Yeah, he's all right.
And I'm proud of all the current UBW roster as well that have gone through the UBW school.
Yeah.
You went out on the UK scene. You made a name for yourself. You went to Japan and you became a star there. You've matured so much in the last 2 years alone. And I feel that you're now poised to take on the world. And it's all done from your own work, and your own talent, and your own determination, and your own effort. Whoever's smart enough to snap you up once this apocalypse is over, will see that firsthand. And I've got no doubt in my mind about that at all. But I've got to say, of all the people that I've trained, my proudest protege, if you will, is definitely you.
Oh, you're going to get me all emotional now.
No.
Yeah.
And it's, do you know what? Beyond your achievements, it's how you've grown as a person.
Mm-hmm.
You should be the blueprint for young up-and-coming trainees. And I do say this to the youngsters that come in now. You should be the blueprint for how they go about becoming a professional wrestler, how they get through the business and how they do it, because you've had your challenges, you've had your setbacks, and you kept on going, and you've achieved so much. And it's not because you've had any kind of short or easy ride. It's not because you've had any kind of favors. You've done it from hard work. And I'm excited to see what's next. I'm so proud of you. I'm looking forward to seeing you carry on the legacy of the man that gave you everything in me. So
I was waiting for that.
It's gonna be good. No, but seriously, yeah, I'm so proud of you, and hey, look, you're the first guest on this podcast. So if this podcast does really well, great. If it does really bad, forget everything that I just said in the last 2 minutes.
Well, either way, it's my fault. Do you know what I mean? If it's good, it's my fault. If it's bad, it's my fault. I'll take either one.
Absolutely, that's fair.
But yeah, thank you so much. That means a lot to me, especially in regards to what you said of me as a person, because that's the most important thing to me, is how I come across and leave an impression on other people. So I'm really glad you said that, and I'm very, very grateful.
Cool. And we'll leave the listeners with one last thing. If you ever get a chance to meet Lucy in person at a signing or in a police lineup or whatever you do, don't give her a Kinder Egg.
Yeah,
give her a Kinder Egg. It's got some kind of trigger that causes rage in her, and it's not worth it.
They annoy me. They're really tasty, but they get a bit frustrating sometimes. I won't go into it, but yeah.
No, it's best not. Look, Lucy, thank you for this.
Thank you.
I'm very happy that you've been the first person to help launch this podcast, and at worst case, you've been the person that's also sunk it. Thank you for your time.
I'm proud.
Looking forward to seeing what's next.
Thank you.
Bye, Lucy.
Thanks. Bye.
So there we have it. First podcast interview in the books. I want to thank Lucy for her time and sitting and interviewing with me and being the first person onto the From the Ashes podcast. I really enjoyed having a chat with Lucy, and even though I was there the entire time, just getting to hear what the training was like from her perspective and a bit of a deep dive into the early days of her career and learning a bit more about Japan was really nice to know as well. It was very important for me to make sure she had time to speak about Hana Kimura, and it's really nice to know that she had such a positive impact on Lucy. And as I mentioned during the podcast, I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever that Lucy is paying tribute to her and representing her every single time she's out there going forward. I'm very excited to see what's next for Lucy. I think that once this pandemic is over, the first opportunity she gets, the first company that's sensible enough to snap her up is going to have a major, major star on their hands that they are going to have to keep on top of, because she's got so much potential, so much opportunity ahead of her, that I don't think it's anything that anyone can stop. So, very, very excited for Lucy's future. Hopeful for the future of this podcast. I'm going to try and make sure I get at least one interview every couple of weeks in, if not every week. So stay tuned, subscribe to this, and I'll be announcing the next guest soon. Speak soon. Bye-bye.